Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome to another episode of Bhagavatam Bites. I think we'd like to begin with an apology.
Yes, we do. Sorry.
So we missed a couple of sessions. It's been a little bit busier than we expected here with different things. So we weren't able to get to them. So we'd like to apologize to all of you out there who are regularly tuning in.
Yeah.
I'm sure no one lost any sleep exactly, but anyway, we'd like to redeem ourselves with an apology, and we'll try to get back on the case on the good foot, as they say. So here we are, reading from the Bhagavatam.
Canto 4, Chapter 22, Text 37.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Text 37. Sanat Kumara advised the king, "Therefore, my dear King Prithu, try to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is living within everyone's heart along with the individual soul in each and every body, either moving or not moving. The individual souls are fully covered by the gross material body and subtle body made of the life, air and intelligence." Purport. In this verse, it is specifically advised that instead of wasting time in the human form of life, endeavoring for economic development and sense gratification, one should try to cultivate spiritual values by understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is existing with the individual soul within everyone's heart. The individual soul and the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his Paramatma feature are both sitting within this body, which is covered by gross and subtle elements. To understand this is to attain actual spiritual culture by the method of the impersonalist philosophers and by devotional service. The impersonalists come to the conclusion that he and the Supreme Spirit are one, whereas devotees or personalists realize the absolute truth by understanding that because the absolute truth is the supreme predominator and we living entities are predominated, our duty is to serve him. The Vedic injunctions say, "Tat Tvam Asi," you are the same, and so hum, I am the same. The impersonalist conception of these mantras is that the Supreme Lord or the Absolute Truth and the living entity are one, but from the devotee's point of view, these mantras assert that both the Supreme Lord and ourselves are of the same quality. Tat Tvam Asi Ayam Atma Brahma. Both the Supreme Lord and the living entity are spirit. Understanding this is self-realization. The human form of life is meant for understanding the Supreme Lord and oneself by spiritual cultivation of knowledge. One should not waste valuable life simply engaged in economic development and sense gratification. I would say that what stood out in particular, as I was reading it, I was thinking, this point, but the way it ended, one should not waste valuable life, because last few days we've been going to the hospital to visit one very senior devotee. She's very sick and she doesn't have no one visiting her, and actually no one is visiting her, and we've been going there and just walking through, and she's in the ICU, so not just like a normal hospital would. It's very, for me, I just walk in like looking ahead. Like he'll look in the rooms that I can't be doing. I did that a little bit the first time we went. It's just, it's disturbing. It's disturbing to see that aspect of material life, which some of us may or may not, depending on our situations in life and the way life goes and how we exit this world, may or may not be in that situation. And it's very, if you want a reality check of, let me not waste, like Prabhupada says, don't waste your valuable human life. If you want a reality check, I would say go to a hospital ward like this, or no, because it really puts into perspective, and you think it isn't a long. There's a phrase, it's gone now, but anyway, it isn't a long. You don't get much time in the good years, as it were, even though it may seem it. You don't, it's like those solid, I don't know what they would be, the 20s or the 30s or whatever, but you don't get, it goes quick. And then you kind of know this is kind of where I'm heading. And if you've got insurance in this country, that is anyway, that's another thing. But yeah, it was just makes you think, gosh, well, you've got your limbs working somewhat, and your health, you've got food on the table, and this, just as Prabhupada says, engage it in self-realization and make the most of it. Do the best you can.
Yeah, on that point, I guess the super positive thing is being with this lady. Even we've been to see her a few times now, and even the first time when she had literally just had surgery, and she was it wasn't in an induced coma, but on heavy medication. And they kind of woke her up, and she saw us, and she was immediately recognized like devotees. And then we were chanting with her, and she was trying to chant even though she was intubated or something. Yeah, intubated, I think it's called. So she was like singing. And then the next time we went, she didn't have that in. She was singing. She was singing along and moving her legs and like proper chanting. And it was really. And every time she's very present to Krishna and devotees and the holy name and the mercy and so many things. And she's like, she's just turned 74 actually. She had surgery on her birthday. Yeah. So, this is phenomenal, and it's also hope-giving to see someone in such an intense situation, but still they're remembering Krishna, and that's glorious. But the world is a suffering place, and it's a battle against time, really, and everything is just deteriorating. So it's only a matter of time, like that. Okay, so read another long paragraph. In this verse, the word kshetravit is also important. This word is explained in Bhagavad Gita 13.2. Idam shariram konteya kshetram ityabhidiyate. This body is called kshetra, the field of activities, and the proprietors of the body, the individual soul and supersoul, sit within the body. They are called kshetravit. But there is a difference between the two kinds of kshetravit. One kshetravit, or knower of the body, namely the Paramatma, or the Supersoul, is directing the individual soul. When we rightly take the direction of the Supersoul, our life becomes successful. He is directing from within and from without. From within, he is directing as Chaitya Guru, or the spiritual master sitting within the heart. Indirectly, he is also helping the living entity by manifesting himself as the spiritual master outside. In both ways, the Lord is giving directions to the living entity so that he may finish up his material activities and come back home, back to Godhead. The presence of the Supreme Soul in the individual soul within the body can be perceived by anyone by the fact that as long as the individual soul and the supersoul are both living within the body is always shining and fresh. But as soon as the supersoul and individual soul give up possession of the gross body, it immediately decomposes. One who is spiritually advanced can thus understand the real difference between a dead body and a living body. In conclusion, one should not waste his time by so-called economic development and sense gratification, but should cultivate spiritual knowledge to understand the supersoul and the individual soul and their relationship. In this way, by advancement of knowledge, one can achieve liberation and the ultimate goal of life. It is said that if one takes to the path of liberation, even rejecting his so-called duties in the material world, he is not a loser at all. But a person who does not take to the path of liberation yet carefully executes economic development and sense gratification loses everything. Interesting. Narada's statement before Vyasadeva is appropriate in this connection. Chaktva swadharmam charana bhujam harer bhajan apakvo ta patet tato yadi yatra kwa vabadram abur amusya kim ko varta aptu bhajatam swadharmataha. That's from Bhagavatam 1:5-17. If a person, out of sentiment or for some other reason, takes to the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, and in due course of time, does not succeed in coming to the ultimate goal of life, or falls down due to lack of experience, there is no loss. But for a person who does not take to devotional service, yet executes his material duties very nicely, there is no gain. So that whole paragraph really was summed up in that final statement, quoting Narada Muni, that basically there's no loss in trying to cultivate and develop our spiritual consciousness, make spiritual advancement. Even if we fall away, as described in other places, you will always start again and pick up where you left off. That question is addressed by Arjuna also in the Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna's response is Neha Bikram Nashosi. There's no loss or diminution on this path, and basically a person who doesn't finish will pick up exactly where he left off in the next life. Of course, we don't want to have to take another life, but if you don't do that, then you don't necessarily pick up where you left off. You may wind up in a more degraded body in your next life. So that kind of thing. So, you may do so many things, but somehow if the cultivation of our spiritual awareness and Krishna consciousness isn't paramount, then we may actually be degraded into an animal species or something like that, or even plant species. So anyway, a few thoughts on this verse and purport. So I think we'll conclude here for this session, and we thank you very much, and once again we apologize. Sometimes absence makes the heart grow fonder, so hopefully you all got more enthusiastic and didn't unsubscribe. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.